extra hard work for the exam, and it's not easy putting together an exam during the COVID and online. We're not all like professionals, but Please the teacher here figured it out, and she did a really good job. So thank you for that. So I feel a little bit everybody. Let's read who's in elementary school? So what I'm saying, 1st through 6th grade, 1st through 5th grade. Okay, elementary school, good. Or kindergarten upward, yeah. Anyway, then middle school, so 6th through 8th. Okay, high school. College?
Yeah.
Okay. Any post-grads? I'm in the back, but yeah. Anyone in grad school currently? Graduate school? No? Okay. Okay, that's good. All right, so, I just want to talk a little bit. Is it okay if we take this off?
Yeah.
I'm vaccinated. So, we kind of are, I just want to talk about what time of the year we're in. That's always kind of interesting to talk about. So, so what are the 5 major fasts of the church year? I'll start. Go ahead, one. Just name one of them. Great Lent. Okay, Great Lent. How long is that?
50 days.
50 days. Good. Very good. And what is that for? What are we preparing for?
Resurrection.
Very good. Very good. Right. It's for his crucifixion, but really his resurrection, right? The Easter. So very good. What's the next one? Shuna Fast. Good. What is that?
The Assumption of Mary.
Assumption of Mary. And when is it? How long is it? Go ahead.
It's 15 days.
I use the date.
August.
August.
15.
Very good. What did you say? What was it for? The Assumption of Mary or the Dormition of Mary. You'll hear both. It's when it's for how the church we prepare for the feast where Mary, Jesus' mom, right, Saint Mary, passed away. She died, and then she was assumed, body and spirit, into heaven. Did you have a question?
No, I actually didn't say one.
Oh, okay. I'll get there. All right. Okay. So yeah, and then third one. See what anyone else has before another one. We have 5. So yeah.
Is it Yeldo?
Yeldo, which is what does Yeldo mean?
Jesus Christ. It's for.
No, Yeldo doesn't mean Jesus Christ. What is it for then? It's close. What is it celebrate?
It's for the birth of Jesus.
Very good. So Yeldo actually means birth. That's what the word Yeldo means. Good. So birth, right? So that's how long is that?
25 days.
Okay, when?
December 1st to December 25th.
Very good. Okay, so 2 more. Yeah.
The Apostles' Fast.
Okay, when was that?
June 16th to June 29th.
Very good. And that celebrates?
The Apostles.
Excellent. That was the easy one. Good. That's one we just did. One more. It's the shortest one. Yeah.
The Nineveh Lent.
Nineveh Lent? Okay, how long is that?
It's 3 days.
Okay. Do you know when it is?
I know it's before the Great Fast.
It's before the Great. Okay, when is it?
It's when Jonah is in the belly of the whale going to Nineveh.
Yes. Okay, but when is it in the calendar? Three weeks before the Great Fast, right? 3 weeks before the Great Fast. So good. So in addition to the story, it's not about, right, everything in the Bible points to what or to who? Everything in the Bible. Come on, easy. Just say it. Someone. Huh?
God.
Okay, more specifically?
Jesus.
Jesus, right? Everything in the Bible points to Christ. Everything points to Christ, okay? And so the Jonah fast, or the 3-day fast, is about, correct, we read the story of Jonah, but if you guys know what is the gospel that is read on the end of that fast, which kind of explains why the church celebrates it. The church celebrates it for more than because of Jonah. Why does the church celebrate it? Or observe the fast? What else took 3 days?
Resurrection.
Right, the resurrection, right? Jesus was in the tomb for 3 days. Jesus says that in the gospel, right? Just as Jonah spent 3 days in the belly of the fish, so the Son of Man must also spend 3 days in Sheol, and he will rise on the 3rd day. Okay, and so it's a preparation, it's a reflection of the fact that Christ would rise from the dead. So anyway, these are the fasts, and each of the fasts prepares for a feast, right? Before we move on to the feast, Are there any other fasting days in the year? Wednesday
Friday.
and Friday. Okay, what's Wednesday?
I don't know.
Okay, there's two meanings that people usually hear.
Is it for Saint Mary?
Saint Mary, good, right? One is that it's the day we remember the Mother of God. Okay, and
Crucifixion of Jesus.
no, yes, Friday is for the crucifixion, absolutely. But there's another meaning for Wednesday also that you hear. Both are correct. It's not that one doesn't always have to be right. The church says by tradition Wednesday night is when Judas betrayed Christ as well, right? He accepted the money, and on Thursday we know that he would actually betray Christ. So that's also another. So Wednesdays and Fridays are also fasting days, with the exception of the 50 days after Easter. We don't have to fast at all. Okay, and so we have these cycles during the year, right? So we have what we just said, the fast. We have different cycles. We have the incarnation, the Lenten cycle, the Paschal cycle, or the Easter cycle, the 50 days. Then we have the Pentecost cycle. So we're now kind of in the Pentecost time of the year, right? And it's in that Pentecost time that we had the Apostles' Fast, right? It always falls within the time of Pentecost because it makes sense. The church knew what it was doing when it created our calendar, because the apostles are a reflection, are the result of the Holy Spirit that came down upon the apostles on Pentecost, right? So, what is so important about these days, right? These are kind of the, I always tell these days kind of get forgotten about in the life of the church, because we have Christmas. Christmas is very exciting. We all really excited for Christmas because if you're fasting, you had to fast for 25 days, and then you get good food, and then we have Christmas, and Santa comes, and you get presents. So it's a nice time, right? And then we have Easter. Easter, it's a really, 50 days of hard fasting, and then we have Easter, and we're able to celebrate. But then we get 50 days again, and we have Pentecost. And then after Pentecost, we kind of just forget about everything, because it's kind of normal, right? There's not many major feasts going on. The church, there's a lot of we just come to Qurban on Sunday. There are no major feasts except the ones we mentioned, like the Apostles' Feast and the Shunoyo. Until Shunoyo, we don't have really anything major in our church. So what do you think this time is for us in the church then? Yeah, sure.
Ordinary time.
Ordinary time? Okay, what do you mean by that?
School. I go to a Catholic church, and I was in Catholic school,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what they teach. They teach you about the 5 different things.
Okay.
So there's ordinary, and that's the time that we're in.
Okay, yeah, we don't really have ordinary time. Ours is built around what we just mentioned, those 5 fasts, and then we also have the time of the cross, which is after September 14th. So this time is the time of the church. It's kind of what we say. It's the time of the Holy Church, where the church is building. So the Gospels that we hear are often about Christ telling us how we should live our lives, how we should love one another, the miracle of the feeding of the 3,000, how we should interact with each other, right? You hear this, like a couple weeks ago we had the Gospel about where Christ says, if you go into a town and they don't receive you, kick off the dust and walk away. So it's a lot of instructions, because we see that after Jesus didn't come, Jesus didn't die, Jesus didn't rise from the dead, and then the Holy Spirit was not sent just so that we can then do nothing, right? That's not the point. He said that, what is the final command Jesus gives us in the Gospel of St. Matthew? Yeah.
To love everyone?
That's one of the commands, but that's not the final command. It's a great commission. Anyone else going to give a guess? Or no?
To spread the word.
Okay. Does anyone know the exact verse? From Matthew chapter 28. He says, "Go to the 4 corners of the earth, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, teaching them everything that I have taught you, and that I am with you till the end of the age," right? So he gives us a command, and he gives us a promise, right? That I am with you till the end of the age. So he says that. He says, I have to go back to my Father so you can do these things, right? And he says, just wait until the Holy Spirit comes. Once the Holy Spirit comes, go and do these things. And we see it. I would suggest, or I would encourage all of you, if you've never read the book of Acts, read the book of Acts. Because it's such an amazing book. We kind of forget about it because it's right after the gospel and it's before the letters of St. Paul. And so sometimes we forget about it, but we see what the early church looked like, right? The early church was on fire. It was going on full cylinders, right? What happened in Acts chapter 2, the Holy Spirit comes down upon the apostles, upon the followers of Christ. They start speaking in tongues. We hear this during Pentecost service, right? And then after that, right after that, even in the same chapter, St. Peter then stands up and speaks to the crowd, right? Because the crowd is saying, how are all these men speaking in different languages? How are they all speaking in different languages? And then some people say, oh, they must be drunk, right? That's what they say. And they're like, oh, how could they be drunk? It's still the morning. These are the conversation they're having, right? And then they're saying, so they're having this conversation, and then Peter hears this and says, this is why we're able to do this. And he gives this whole explanation of who Jesus Christ is, how he came and rose from the dead. And at the end of Acts chapter 2, it says, thousands were baptized that day. Thousands were baptized that day. And then from that point on, we see the apostles. They're going at full speed. Stories of Peter and John and the man in front of the temple gate, right? The paralyzed man who they healed. We find about St. Stephen, who was stoned by St. Paul. And then St. Paul's conversion on the way to Damascus. And then St. Paul's travels. We see the issue about, should people be circumcised? Should they not be circumcised? And then we see the first council get together in Acts chapter 15, which is where we get, even to this day, we have the, if you guys have hope, especially those of you in the older grades, you've learned about why does the church use councils, right? Why does the synod, you might have heard, the Thereans are getting together for synod, right? They meet twice a year. Why? Because in the Council of Nicaea, they say that the bishops have to get together twice a year. Because in our church, the bishops come together to make decisions for the Holy Church because the Holy Spirit speaks through the group of the bishops. And the same thing happened and that comes from Acts 15. Because Peter was arguing what? Peter was saying, they have to follow all the Jewish rituals and they have to become circumcised, and then they can become followers of Christ. And Paul was saying, no, they don't have to do this. And there was a big issue. These are the two leaders of the apostles, right? Peter and Paul, right? The two of the greatest saints in our church. And so this argument caused an issue in the church. So St. James brings them together. St. James and all the apostles come back to Jerusalem. And St. James, which is a brother of the Lord, leads the apostles. That's why we see here in the fifth book, what does they say about St. James? He is the first. What do we hear? Those of you in the altar. Have you read the fifth book then? Any of you altar boys? None of you altar boys? Okay, have you read the fifth book then?
I think it's St. James, first of.
Yes, the first Archbishop of Jerusalem. Exactly, right? Because he was the leader there. He led that council. Okay, so the point I'm saying here is not to go into all this church history, but to show that the church is running on full cylinders. And for us, this is a time for us to be reminded of the fact that we also are called to the same call. Whatever the apostles did, we're called to do that same thing. Whatever the disciples did, we're disciples of Christ, right? What does disciple mean? What does disciple literally mean in Greek? Not apostle, disciple. If I'm a disciple, someone's my disciple, what does that mean? Follower, yes, right? Follower. We are a follower of our teacher, right? And our teacher is the Lord. And so we are all disciples, and we have been given the Holy Spirit in baptism, right? We all received it through holy baptism. And so let us use this time. So, I know for us, especially in America, this is the time that we're off from school. We go to vacation. This is okay. Like, go to vacation, enjoy your time. You should enjoy your summer. It's important you take a break. I'm not saying not to, but don't use this time as a way to fall away from Christ, right? We should not fall away from the church. We should not say, the church doesn't matter. And then all of a sudden, when Shunoy Noam comes, when the Lent for St. Mary comes, or Sliva Bernal comes, or some of us, we don't even think about church seriously again until December, right? This is 6 months away. That's not true. This time is given to us by the church so that we can continue to be followers of Christ and disciples of Christ, and ultimately the image of Christ to the world, right? That's what our calling always should be, And so the church, so when you hear the gospel, especially during these times, you'll hear, so many gospels with different lessons. It's you hear different lessons by Christ, different miracles. You don't hear too many miracles except for the healing, the feeding of the 5,000. But we're hearing a lot of his teachings, how to be a good Christian, how to be a follower of Christ. So listen to those things, and then let's follow him in such a way so that the time after Pentecost is not a time that we fall away, but rather it's a time that we renew our relationship with Christ. Okay? May all glory, honor, and worship be to the Father, to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit. Any questions about anything? Even it doesn't have to be about this.
Jonathan, could you talk about like the Sunday school and where you see it going? I know there's a couple of initiatives right here. Having a new curriculum, we have a quarterly newsletter. Is there things that you have in mind for the Sunday school going ahead?
Those are the big things that are happening. If you haven't heard, we're working on a new curriculum. I know that people have complaints, but that's okay. Even if we have complaints, we have to recognize. I say this with our board all the time, like. That is what was given to us, regardless of the fact. You have to think of our uncles and aunties who came in the 70s and 80s. They came with nothing. They came with literally almost nothing. And they decided, hey, it was important that their children learned about the faith, right? And so that's what they gave us. That doesn't mean we have to hold on to it forever, and that's not what we're doing. It's time for us to take a change, and and this is something we're doing with the Southwest Diocese because. The children, the students in both dioceses are the same essentially, right? You guys are not much different than kids in Texas or Chicago or whatever. And so we're working together to create a new curriculum. We're hoping that the new curriculum will be released next year. So we'll have one more year of this curriculum. And we hope that it'll be, very much kind of a renewal of our Sunday school overall, right? And that we'll be able to kind of fix some of the things that were not so good about our old curriculum, make better the things that were, good, like make them stronger, and then also introduce a lot more different styles of teaching. Also, we're trying to be more multimedia, more, we're not just reading from the book, right? That we don't ever want that. That's always something we've talked about. We're hoping, if you're any of your teachers, I encourage you. I hope you're not just reading to your students in class. Your class should be more interactive than just reading the text to them. So that's the biggest thing that's happening, and it's a lot of work. And so, but it's also we're having teachers from both dioceses help to write the lessons. We have a lot of Hutchins, and a lot of people are helping. It's over 100 people are working on this, so that's really exciting from both dioceses. And then the newsletter. I assume some of you have written for the newsletter. I think I've seen some stuff from this church. So thank you for those who've submitted things. Those are going to be released quarterly. It's named Malto, Mayalto, we say Malayalam. What does Mayalto mean? What is the Feast of Mayalto? Do you know what day it is?
I'm not sure, but since the newsletter is called Mayalto, does it mean news?
No, good guess though. No, it doesn't. Do you guys have heard Mayalto? I think it's in our Sunday school curriculum. It's one of the feast days of the church. One of our Maranai Paranals, the feasts of the Lord. So it's a very important feast. Unfortunately, some of our churches don't do Qurbana on that day. We should though. It's the presentation of the Lord at the temple. It's on February 2nd. Why is it February 2nd?
This is because that's when Jesus went to the temple, first went to the temple.
Yes, but that's not why it's February 2nd. So yes, it is when Jesus first went to the temple, meaning not as a little boy, but as a baby. Do you remember that Mary and Joseph went to present Jesus to the temple as a baby? Yes.
Is it because it's December 25th, and then after that certain days?
Yeah. How many days?
What is it?
Come on, think about it. What's the day we use for everything?
50?
Oh, close.
40?
40 days. 40 days after the birth of Jesus, right?
Yes.
So that's why it's February 2nd. Very good. So, you guys may be seen, maybe some of you, if you're older siblings, you remember when your kid brothers and sisters were born, or you have cousins, the moms and the baby usually wait 40 days before they come to church. Why? One is because to imitate what Christ did. Secondly is, a lot of people don't know this, but in the ancient church, if you missed 3 weeks in a row, you were excommunicated from the church. Yeah, if you miss Qurbana 3 weeks in a row. So that is not enforced anymore, as you are well aware. But that's how strict the early church was, right? And so it was a what is it? We say like I'm trying to think of the word, but it was a leniency given to new mothers, right? Because a mom gives birth, next day they can't get up and go to church. Do they understand? So they give them 40 days to rest. Come back prepared. Come back, with your body fully, not fully. I'm not a woman, so I don't know. But but after 40 days, for the most part, most women are able to at least, they're almost back to normal, and they're able to bring their child to church. And so the first place in India, even to this day, our old Amichis and Appachins, especially the Amichis, are very strict about it. Where the first place we bring the child to is the church, right? They won't bring the baby anywhere. Now they'll bring it to the doctor and stuff, but besides that, they won't bring the baby anywhere. The first place you bring your baby is to the church. And so anyway, February 2nd is Mayalto, which is the presentation of the Lord to the temple, right? And do you remember Simeon was there? And Simeon says, I have seen salvation with my eyes, right? And then he says that he will be for great many people. And he tells St. Mary that he will be like a sword that pierced your own heart, right? Referring to the fact that Jesus will die, right? And so Mayalto literally means presentation, okay? So that's the word Mayalto means. And so that's why we chose that word, because it's the newsletter is dedicated to Munduguri Achin, which most of you probably, I never even met Achin, but Achin was our first director of the Sunday school here. He did a lot for our Sunday school in America. This is when the diocese was one, and so he was the first one. He kind of created the first textbooks, a lot of the early translations. It was all Achin, and so it's dedicated to Achin, but we wanted this newsletter to be a way for us to present the talent that our children have to the church, right? So we accept essays, poems, drawings, any sort of talent that you may have, we accept it. So please, if you have any, please submit it. You can ask Niven, he'll tell you how to submit it. There's a limit, so if we don't accept it for the next newsletter, it'll be applied to the newsletter after, because we don't want our newsletters to become like 40 pages long. So good. Those are the major initiatives. Like I said, we're doing centralized exam online this year, and so that we're going to see how that goes. I think it'll go well by God's grace. So hopefully everything will go okay. How many are you taking the exam? Okay, 3, 4, 5, 5. I see. Okay. Good luck to all of you. Is there anything else that I missed, Uncle Riza? I don't think there's anything major that we missed. Yeah, those are the main things that we're working on. Yes. What's your name?
Basil.
Basil. Okay.
I have 2 questions. It's not related to your speech, but
That's okay.
it's related to the last thing you said. But why do they have to wait 4 years?
That's what it is. It's 2 things. One is because it's an imitation of what Jesus did. Like St. Mary waited 40 years.
Why did Mary do it?
Oh, that's what the ancient Jewish law said.
Oh.
Yeah, the ancient Jewish law was that you had to bring your child, you had to present your child. So they came with the sacrifice also, right? In the old days, before Christ was crucified, the Jewish people would bring sacrifices to the temple, right? They would bring like turtle doves, or they would bring lamb, depending on what kind of thing they were doing. So they came with the sacrifice also. So they were presenting Christ to the temple as well as presenting their sacrifice to him. Good question. Did you have another one?
Yeah, and also, was it also for the law that if you weren't there for 3 weeks before Qurbana, you would...
That wasn't part of Jewish law. That was part of the early church's canon law. Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay, good. We'll do evening prayer now. I wanted to do some